Hey, what's good everybody? It's your boy Seethruthescript here, and I'm back with another video, and this one I've been meaning to make and release for the last few months now. The topic is quite heavy, and y'all the viewers will have to bear with me, as the subject matter is not so YouTube friendly. So for that case, I will use words such as poke instead of the V word, maybe a few here and there as well. So, you know, the censorship is real, but this information is realer. Anywho, I'm sure most can agree time has been moving fast, and so it seems technology has as well. As we are witnessing big pharma roll out products that usually take decades, we have a celebrity billionaires making robotic humanoids with plans on implementing microchips into human bodies. Also, we have seen massive improvements towards telecommunication networks across the world, as well as governments worldwide enforcing strict policies and mandates surrounding the pandemic. For a while now, it's been feeling like this whole thing was an opportunity more than a crisis, like the old saying goes. As we can see, with this radical dictatorship under the guise of a medical emergency, has used fear as a weapon to create a much more compliant populace. However, the one thing different about a human and a robot is a human has a soul, and that soul is what can allow us to remain mentally free as long as we keep it from being tainted. I mean, at this point, practically all that was conspiracy theory seems to have become conspiracy fact at this point. With all that being said, I want to start off by defining a few things. First being transhumanism is the social and philosophical movement devoted to promoting the research and development of robust human enhancement technologies. Such modifications resulting from the addition of biological or physical technologies would be more or less permanent and integrated into the human body. The second definition being nanotechnology, which is the term given to those areas of science and engineering where phenomena that take place at dimensions in the nanometer scale are utilized in the design, characterization, production, and application of materials, structures, devices, and systems. Now, as some of you are aware, there are theories, and I say that lightly, regarding C19 poke and graphene particles. Well, let's briefly understand how graphene could be beneficial to have inside of the poke. Graphene helped the researchers come up with more effective manufacturing processes called auto-perforation for this particular device. Graphene is used as a protective shell that will allow these microscopic robots to withstand the conditions within cells and the body. This coming from Don Basil, a tech innovator, the article titled Graphene Robots. He further goes on to explain graphene is highly durable and exhibits water-resistant traits, meaning that the casing for the electronic nanorobot will keep it working in harsh conditions, essentially meaning it can handle being inside the human body. With graphene, we could begin to see a revolution in robotics, particularly regarding nanotechnology for healthcare and medical needs. For those still wondering, what is graphene used for? Graphene's unique combination of extraordinary properties offers a fascinating material platform for the development of next generation technologies in many areas: wearable and super fast electronics, faster DNA sequencing, ultra sensitive sensors, multifunctional composites, encoding, membranes, medicine and biotechnology, energy harvesting, and storage. Now, one's got to ask, well, with all those awesome benefits, there's got to be some cons or poor side effects of graphene. Well, according to the toxology report, numerous results have shown that graphene materials cause dose-dependent toxicity in animals and cells such as liver and kidney injury, lung granuloma formation, decreased cell viability, and cell apoptosis. Alright, so check this out. On October 21st of 2020, an article was posted to PubMed Central, and the headline read, "Potential of graphene-based materials to combat properties, perspectives and prospects. And here's an example of what they were talking about in an image format. They were suggesting things such as like mask and using graphene fabric layers. So what's very interesting is later on in July 14th of 2020 in Canada, Health Canada actually had recalled graphene coated mask out of safety concerns, says some models can come back on the market though. They are purposely exposing us to graphene more and more as it further aids the nanotechnologies they are/want to inject. However, earlier in 2020, they had a different tone towards graphene, as you can see. Now, I say all this to say, let's take a look at this article from Pharmaceutical Technology and hear briefly what it has to say. And as you could see in this article, it goes on to state, BioNTech signs deals to develop nano-sized antibodies. And essentially what they want to do is have these nano abs, aka nano antibodies, demonstrated to have robust competitive advantage against current C19 drugs. They want to remove the very idea of natural antibodies to modified antibodies meant to protect you. A term that I noticed very early on during the time of the pandemic was the term novel. And I always wondered why the word novel was there. So here is a explanation from brgeneral.org as early as March 24th, 2020. And it states, a novel is a new strand that has not been previously identified in humans. Animal to person spread was suspected after the initial outbreak among people who had a link to a large seafood and live animal market. Because it's so new, very little is known about how this acts. However, when you actually look up the definition of novel, it's a very interesting definition, as I'm sure most of us are aware. A fictitious prose narrative of book length, typically representing character and action with some degree of realism. Keywords being some degree of realism. In the process of doing what they're doing, it seems as if they're looking for any opportunity to have their chance to have some form of their product inside of our bodies. And if it isn't in the form of a syringe, it could be in the form of a pill. And here is a perfect example of how the FDA has already authorized their second antiviral pill to treat C19. And notice on the pill, there is a number marked on it, and that number is 82. And for those who are not familiar with numerology and how it's used, here's a quick example using the practice of English Gematria. You could see that the word COVID equals 82 in our reverse ordinal cipher. And it's interesting how the COVID-19 pills have that number branded on them. All right, so at this point, I'm sure the majority of you are familiar with the term the Great Reset. This is a term that comes from the World Economic Forum, and the World Economic Forum is very, very crucial and impactful during the time that we're living in right now, because a lot of the change that we're witnessing is accredited to their ideas that they're pushing forward. However, when we discuss the World Economic Forum, we cannot go without mentioning the founder and executive chairman, Klaus Schwab. Klaus Schwab is the man who is spearheading the fourth industrial revolution, what it means, how to respond. And here is an excerpt from an article that came on January 14th, 2016. It goes on to read, the possibilities of billions of people connected by mobile devices with unprecedented processing power, storage capacity, and access to knowledge are unlimited. And these possibilities will be multiplied by emerging technology breakthroughs in fields such as artificial intelligence, robotics, the Internet of Things, autonomous vehicles, 3D printing, nanotechnology, biotechnology, material science, energy storage, and quantum computing. So it's very, very jam-packed, but what I have highlighted in red is that nanotechnology. So they've been prepping for this, well in advance. And this article comes from 2016. There's earlier references.
Aujourd'hui, au bout de ça, on parle de puces qu'on pourra s'implanter. Ce sera quand ça?
Certainement dans les 10 années à venir. Et d'abord, on va les implanter dans nos vêtements, c'est-à-dire wearables, comme on le dit. Et après, on pourrait s'imaginer qu'on les implante dans nos cerveaux ou dans notre peau. Et à la fin, peut-être il y a une communication directe entre notre cerveau et le monde digital. Ce que nous voyons, c'est une sorte de fusion du monde physique, digital et biologique.
On appelle quelqu'un, on n'a même plus le réflexe de devoir prendre un appareil, ça se fait naturellement, hein. La technique continue le corps.
Oui, vous parlez et vous dites, je veux maintenant être connecté avec n'importe qui.
Hein?
Et d'abord, vous avez les robots personnalisés. Et j'ai vu que M. Zuckerberg a prédit qu'à la fin de l'année, il va avoir son robot, son butler personnalisé qui est à sa disposition.
Donc, comme dans Downton Abbey, on aura son butler personnel, son serviteur, son esclave.
Oui, mais il y a une différence. C'est un serviteur qui, avec l'intelligence artificielle, apprend et qui n'est pas seulement votre assistant pour des travaux manuels, qui peut vraiment être un partenaire intellectuel.
Now, another concept that comes from the World Economic Forum and the villain that is Klaus Schwab is the idea of the Internet of Bodies, the merger of humans and AI equaling transhumanism. As the Internet of Bodies spreads into every aspect of our existence, we are facing a range of new challenges, but we also have an unprecedented chance to improve our health and well-being and save countless lives. During the crisis, using this opportunity and finding the solutions to the challenges is a more urgent task than ever. This relies on government agencies and legislative bodies working with the private sector and civil society to create a robust governance framework and to include interfaces in the realm of data protection. Devising technological and regulatory standards for the interoperability and security would also be crucial to unleashing the power of the newly available data. The key is to collaborate across borders and sectors to fully realize the enormous benefits of this rapidly advancing technology. Again, if you notice, this crisis is an opportunity. Listen to the rhetoric they use. Here is an image from the World Economic Forum, and it's a diagram of the Internet of Things, and you guys can take a look at that. Feel free to pause the screen while it's up there. But moving on, something else that we're also going to be discussing is the company Moderna. The company Moderna on their website actually has a very interesting way of describing how their product works. And here is their diagram, and it kind of lays out the steps in a three-step format. So it goes DNA, aka the storage. DNA stores instructions for proteins in the nucleus. And then the mRNA, which is this new controversial technology that's being used, is the software. mRNA is a temporary set of instructions for cells to make a protein. mRNA is made using DNA. Now, the third step is the protein, which is the applications. Proteins form the basis of life by forming the functions required by every cell. Proteins are made using mRNA. Now, they go on to say that the POC is their operating system. Recognizing the broad potential of mRNA science, we are set out to create an mRNA technology platform that functions very much like an operating system on a computer. It is designed so that it can plug and play interchangeably with different programs. In our case, the program or app is our mRNA drug, the unique mRNA sequence that codes for a protein. So very, very interesting terminology in light of the whole transhumanism agenda. Think about how they're referring to this technology as an operating system or a computer, and how the idea of transhumanism is merging the technology of, what would have been in a computer into a human, or merging the two together. Now, if you continue to read on Moderna's website, they go on to show another diagram, which is considered to be the software of life. And it goes on to read, when we have a concept for a new mRNA medicine and begin research, fundamental components are already in place. Generally, the only thing that changes from one potential mRNA medicine to another is the coding region, the actual genetic code that instructs ribosomes to make protein. Utilizing these instruction sets, given our investigational mRNA medicines a software-like quality. We also have the ability to combine different mRNA sequences encoding for different proteins in a single mRNA investigational medicine. Now, tying in some gematria, notice how equals 70, software of life, the phrase equals 70, and Moderna, the company that developed the software of life, equals 70. So here's where the gematria ties in the whole concept that I'm bringing up today between the idea of the mRNA technology, the idea of transhumanism, and the pokes. Notice how vaccination in English Sumerian equals 666, and computer, and similar to how the mRNA technology operates similar to a computer, equals 666. They are using the pokes to bring us closer to what the World Economic Forum refers to as the Internet of Bodies.
What I wanted to epitomize with the Internet of Bodies is this notion that we will be under assessment, we will be under measure of computation in every aspect of our lives in the future. From what you eat, who you date, what you buy on the internet, how much energy you use, but also what are your vital signs? How well are you doing in terms of health? What kind of specific genetic quirks do you have? What's your genome telling about your health, about your mental health, about how well you are doing, how well you are aging, what kind of disease you are susceptible to?
It has a bit of an Orwellian twinge to it.
Well,
Now, next, I just want to take you through a few examples of what's going on in the modern era in regards to humanoids and, the transhumanism type agenda. So Elon Musk says he's driving the Tesla bot program personally because he has to, quote unquote. And this is from January 31st. The Tesla bot has been announced well earlier, but again, another concept of how they're pushing this on the masses. And next, you could see Elon Musk is also the culprit here, where he mentions his Neuralink to begin implanting microchips in humans' brains in 2022, the year that we're currently in. It's like a Fitbit for your skull with wires, he said in a 2020 demonstration of the prototype. Now, again, the Jesuits are the ones that are serving the Roman Catholic Church and have the power beyond belief. We've talked about it several times. Watch previous videos if you're not familiar. However, Jesuits are using Elon Musk to sell the idea of putting chips into your body even further, considering he is already highly praised amongst the mainstream. Now, the next thing comes from the World Economic Forum, and this was on August 11th of 2017, and the headline reads, "These workers have got a microchip implanted in their hand from their employer." And look what it states here. When we talk about a cashless society, we usually mean using contactless bank cards or smartphones to make everyday purchases. But what if you didn't need to carry a device at all? This is the tantalizing prospect leading some employees in Europe to be voluntarily microchipped with a radio frequency identification tag, RFID. And now Americans are getting in on the act of implanting microchip in humans. So again, they're really pushing this narrative, and this was from 2017, and I got some other interesting stuff that was from earlier than that as well that I'll be sure to show you guys.
I'm here to meet some of the thousands of people in the country who are adapting their own bodies, who are inserting microchips under their skin. It means they may never have to carry a house key, train ticket, or bank card ever again.
All right, so in light of all this technology and these new advancements in the pharmaceutical world, you have the advancement in the telecommunications world being the rollout of 5G. Mind you, in China, they rolled out 5G in 2019. However, in North America, specifically the United States, it happened more later in the year 2022. However, it did actually roll out in some areas of the states in 2021. However, what the headline reads, top concerns for airlines in early 2022. And basically, 5G was set to roll out on a specific date nationwide on January 5th. And when that news first released, we calculated the date duration from when the World Health Organization declared the pandemic, which was on March 11th, 2020, to the day 5G was set to roll out nationwide in the United States, January 5th, happened to be a span of 666 days. Remember, we talked about how and computer both equal 666. And again, this technology, 5G, would only further enhance the transhumanism agenda is trying to do. What's interesting about the date that the 5G was set to initially release, according to AT&T and Verizon, they had picked the day January 5th, 2022, and that has date numerology of the number 12. And when you spell out 5G in Gematria, you get the value of 12. Considering G is the 7th letter, it's simple math. 5 plus 7 is 12. And something to just also consider as well is that it was the 5th day of the year and they were planning on rolling out 5G on the 5th day of the year. I think you get it. And then also you can see how the word equals 57 in the most basic cipher, being English ordinal, where A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, etc. You have it placed in front of you. And again, just like how I stated, G is the 7th letter. So think about how equals 57 and 5G, the abbreviation, G representing 7, 5G, 57. I think you get where I'm going here, how they connect. So for those still not understanding the connection between 5G and COVID, allow me to read through this study that does a great job at not only raising the question of a correlation between the two, but finding some very damning evidence. However, before we go into this study, it's important to point out the gematria of the key focal point of the study being wireless communication radiation and its connection to the C19 virus. Notice the phrase wireless communication radiation equals 351. This is the 26 triangular number. This connects numerically to the words and virus, both holding the value of 26 in the most pure cipher. Now, this study is titled Evidence for a Connection Between 19 and exposure to radio frequency radiation from wireless communication, including 5G, by Beverly Rubik and Robert R. Brown. It goes on to say, 5G is a protocol that will use high frequency bands and extensive bandwidths of electromagnetic spectrum in the vast radio frequency range from 600 megahertz to nearly 100 gigahertz, which includes millimeter waves less than 20 gigahertz. In addition to the currently used 3rd generation 3G and 4th generation 4G, long-term evolution LTE microwave bands, 5G frequency spectrum allocations differ from country to country. Focused pulsed beams of radiation will emit from new base stations and phased array antennas placed close to buildings whenever persons access the 5G network. Because these frequencies are strongly absorbed by the atmosphere, and especially during rain, a transmitter range is limited to 300 meters. Therefore, 5G requires base stations and antennas to be much more closely spaced than previous generations. Plus, satellites in space will emit 5G bands globally to create a wireless worldwide web. The new system therefore requires significant densification of 4G infrastructure, as well as new 5G antennas that may dramatically increase the population's wireless communication radiation exposure, both inside structures and outdoors. Approximately 100,000 emitting satellites are planned to be launched into orbit. This infrastructure will significantly alter the world's electromagnetic environment to unprecedented levels and may cause unknown consequences to the entire biosphere, including humans. The new infrastructure will service the new 5G devices, including 5G mobile devices, routers, computers, tablets, self-driving vehicles, machine-to-machine communications, and the Internet of Things. That's something that the World Economic Forum has discussed and we discussed in this video. It goes on to read, began in Wuhan, China in December 2019, shortly after citywide 5G had gone live. That is, became an operational system on October 31st, 2019. Outbreaks soon followed in other areas where 5G had also been at least partially implemented, including South Korea, Northern Italy, New York, Seattle, and Southern California in May of 2020. Mordachev reported a statistically significant correlation between the intensity of radio frequency radiation and the mortality in 31 countries throughout the world. During the first wave in the United States, attributed cases and deaths were statistically higher in states and major cities with 5G infrastructure as compared with states and cities that did not yet have this technology. As the study goes in depth, it states, in patients referred to as long haulers, symptoms can wax and wane for months. Shortness of breath, fatigue, joint pain, and chest pain can become persistent symptoms. Post-infectious brain fog, cardiac arrhythmia, and new onset hypertension have also been described. Long-term chronic compilations of are being defined as epidemiological data are collected over time. As our understanding of continues to evolve, environmental factors, particularly those of wireless communication, electromagnetic fields, remain unexplored variables that may be contributing to the disease, including its severity in some patients. Next, we summarize the bioeffects of wireless communication radiation exposure from the peer-reviewed scientific literature published over decades. Alright, now here is the overview on bioeffects of wireless communication radiation exposure. It reads, organisms are electrochemical beings. Low-level wireless communication radiation, or WCR, from devices including mobile telephony-based antennas, wireless network protocols utilized for the local networking of devices and internet access, trademarked as Wi-Fi, officially IEEE 802.11b Direct Sequence Protocol. Then there's IEEE Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers by the Wi-Fi Alliance, and mobile phones, among others, may disrupt regulation of numerous psychological functions. Non-thermal bioeffects below the power density that causes tissue heating from very low-level WCR exposure have been reported in numerous peer-reviewed scientific publications at power densities below the International Commission on Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection exposure guideline. Low-level WCR has been found to impact the organism at all levels of the organization, from the molecular to the cellular, physiological, behavioral, and psychological levels. Moreover, it has been shown to cause systemic detrimental health effects, including increased cancer risk, endocrine changes, increased free radical production, deoxyribonucleic acid, aka DNA damage, and changes to the reproductive system, learning and memory defects, and neurological disorders. Having evolved within Earth's extremely low-level natural radio frequency background, organisms lack the ability to adapt to heightened levels of unnatural radiation of wireless communications technology with digital modulation that includes short, intense pulses, aka bursts. In a long-term 1 to 4 year study comparing children who use mobile phones to a control group, functional changes including greater fatigue, decreased voluntary attention, and weakening of semantic memory, among other adverse psychophysiological changes, were reported. Now, in this study, it actually gives a table chart with the bioeffects of wireless communication radiation, aka WCR exposure, in relation to manifestations and their progression. So basically what it's doing is it's showing you how WCR exposure affects us, and in specific categories such as blood changes, oxidative stress, immune disruption and activation, increased intracellular calcium, and cardiac effects. It compares WCR exposure and the way has been affecting our bodies, and they're pointing out correlations. So I highly recommend pausing this and reading through these because it's very interesting, to say the least. Now, deeper in the study, it goes on to state in 2009, Johansson conducted a literature review which included the 2007 Bioinitiative report. He concluded that electromagnetic fields, EMF exposure, including WCR, can disturb the immune system and cause allergic and inflammatory responses at exposure levels significantly less than current national and international safety limits, and raise the risk for systemic disease. A review conducted by Seethruthescript in 2013 concluded that weak RF microwave fields, such as those emitted by mobile phones, can affect various immune functions both in vitro and in vivo. Although the effects are historically somewhat inconsistent, most research studies document alterations in the number and activity of immune cells from RF exposure. In general, short-term exposure to weak microwave radiation may temporarily stimulate an innate or adaptive immune response, but prolonged irradiation inhibits those same functions. Moving on, the pandemic has offered us an opportunity to delve further into the potential adverse effects of wireless communication radiation exposure on human health. Human exposure to wireless communication radiation significantly increased in 2020 as a side effect to the pandemic. Stay-at-home measures designed to reduce the spread of inadvertently resulted in greater public exposure to wireless communication radiation, as people conducted more business and school-related activities through wireless communications. Telemedicine created another source of WCR exposure. Even hospitals' inpatients, particular ICU patients, experienced increased wireless communication radiation exposure as new monitoring devices utilized wireless communication systems that may exacerbate health disorders. It would potentially provide valuable information to measure ambient wireless communication radiation power densities in home and work environments when comparing disease severity in patient populations with similar risk factors. All right, now let's wrap up this study with the conclusion. It goes on to read, there is a substantial overlap in pathobiology between and wireless communication radiation exposure. The evidence presented here indicates that mechanisms involved in the clinical progression of could also be generated according to the experimental data by WCR exposure. Therefore, we propose the link between adverse bioeffects of WCR exposure from wireless devices and specifically, evidence presented here supports a premise that WCR, and in particular 5G, which involves densification of 4G, may have exacerbated the by weakening host immunity and increasing virulence by 1 causing morphologic changes in erythrocytes, including ethnocyte and Rolock formation, that may be contributing to hypercoagulation. 2, impairing microcirculation and reducing erythrocyte and hemoglobin levels, exacerbating hypoxia. 3, amplifying immune dysfunction, including immunosuppression, autoimmunity, and hyperinflammation. 4, increasing cellular oxidative stress and the production of free radicals, exacerbating vascular injury and organ damage. 5, increasing intracellular calcium, essential for viral entry, replication, and release, in addition to promoting pro-inflammatory pathways. And 6, worsening heart arrhythmias and cardiac disorders. WCR exposure is a widespread yet often neglected environmental stressor that could produce a wide range of adverse bioeffects. For decades, independent research scientists worldwide have emphasized the health risk and cumulative damage caused by WCR. The evidence presented here is consistent with a large body of established research. Healthcare workers and policymakers should consider WCR a potentially toxic environmental stressor. Methods for reducing WCR exposure should be provided to all patients in the general population. Very interesting stuff, guys. Again, if you want to read the study, I'll have it linked below in the video. In light of the topic of transhumanism and robots, you have another article here that states you have to distance yourself from it being a human, meeting Amica the humanoid. And last year, Amica the humanoid blinked to life quickly and went viral at CES 2022. Now allow me to show you this clip.
I see your camera. I also have cameras in my eyes. Well, I am designed as a research platform for human-robot interaction.
Now, also, you got to keep in mind, if they're going to move onwards with this agenda of transhumanism, they want to make sure that they try to cover as much ground as possible in terms of what humans may need to feel human, right? And you could see here, this article from BBC went and looked into the idea of God and robots. Will AI transform religion? Artificial intelligence is changing how we interact with everything from food, healthcare, travel, and also religion. And essentially, they created a robot, a prayer companion robot. And I'm going to show you this clip that kind of explains it in better detail.
Poland, Catholicism is the predominant faith. Gabriele Trovato has been building this for the past year, and it's almost ready. Its name is Santo. Gabriele says this is the first ever Catholic robot.
It was clear to me last year during the lockdown when many people started complaining they couldn't go to church. So in this sense, a machine like Santo can give a hand.
Are you proud of Santo?
Yes, it's my son. It's my baby.
Santo is programmed with 2,000 years of knowledge about the Catholic faith. He's ready to meet worshippers for the first time.
My name is Santo. What brings you here on this beautiful day?
Santo, is there a heaven?
It is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for someone rich to enter the kingdom of God.
And then another thing that popped up on my radar was the Ray-Ban and Facebook introducing the Ray-Ban Stories first generation smart glasses. And yeah, it's pretty much what you can imagine. These glasses that have a camera, but you can also use them to kind of see and surf the web and do all this sort of unnecessary high-tech stuff. And another way of incorporating this wearable tech and getting us more used to the idea of kind of having it on us and then maybe later potentially in us. But anyways, guys, in conclusion, all I gotta say is try your best to free yourself from all of this sort of technology that claims to be connecting us to the greater society, but actually seems to only disconnect us from the reality. So, take heed to the signs and, share this information and make sure that you're always doing the best you can to keep fit, stay healthy, mentally and physically. But other than that, it's been real. Another real deal clip from your boy Seethruthescript, man. Yeah. I'm just playing with you, man. But other than that, I hope to see you guys on the next video. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at Seethruthescript. All my links will be in the description. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Yeah, it's been real. It's your boy. I'm out. Peace.
Love the aspect of the AI and the machines taking over. We have cars that drive themselves, and that's a convenience right now, but soon there won't be a steering wheel, and it'll take you to the police station when you have outstanding parking tickets, and, it'll be like that. So we've got a lot to look forward to. If that happens, it'd be a real blast to see where he goes, because it's not only the machines that control us from the outside, it'll be the machines that control us from the inside, the nanotechnology. You're talking to a person and they're watching a movie in their retina, it'll be hard to get everybody's attention. I think it's something anybody can enjoy. I think the kids are going to have a blast, and the parents won't mind being there.
You can't handle the truth.